tonight. Thank you for being here on the open house for the Urban Forest Management Plan. Some of you are pretty familiar with what this project is, and for some of you it may still be kind of new. This is the first public open house about the Urban Forest Management Plan. This is something that the City Council asked us to move forward and work on, and it will take a while to get it done. But tonight you're going to hear a presentation from our consultant at Baby Resources Group. This is Ian Scott, and Ian's going to explain a little bit about the project, introduce his team, and we'll be here for a while.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All right.
Ian.
Thank you, Shane. Okay. Yes, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. This is a critical first step in the Urban Forest Management Plan process. This is something that we're building for the city on your behalf, and so your input is extremely valuable. Before we get too far in, if I can get a show of hands, how many are residents here at the city of Edmonds? Oh, okay, and own businesses or run businesses as well? A little bit. Okay, I just want to make sure, because there's a diversity of interest there as well, and I wanted to make sure I understood a little bit of who my audience was. There's other people in this room who work for the city, and myself, I have a few of my colleagues here with me. So as we go through the meeting tonight, afterwards we'll be talking to some people. If you guys, Keely, Ian, could you stand up? So this is Keely O'Connell. She's with Nature and Site Consulting. We're partnering up with her to help work on this project. And Ian Lefcourt, he's a planning specialist and helped to do the urban tree canopy assessment, which I'll go into in a little bit. And then the city staff. Could the city staff raise your hands? There's an assortment of them throughout the room, and they would love to also talk to you as well. So as we get done with the presentation, we can all engage everybody, and we'll learn. So what we're doing tonight, we're going to talk tonight a little bit about Edmonds Urban Forest, and I'm going to explain a little bit about the development of the Urban Forest Management Plan. We're going to talk about the process that we've gotten to so far to get to this date tonight. The first major step in the project was to do an urban tree canopy assessment, so I'm going to introduce that to you because for some people that may be a new expression, but it's a way of analyzing and understanding the urban forest. We're going to take a look at some of the benefits of the Edmonds tree canopy, and so as a result of this tree canopy assessment, there's some models that you can run that talk about the environmental benefits of trees. And then we're going to talk about the next steps. So that's the part that really engages you folks, is the vision and goals and the opinion boards that we have at the back of the room, so we can help. And we're going to run an online survey as well. And all of those things are designed to help you guys express your opinions and your views, and help us move in the direction towards a plan that works for you and the city. So what is the urban forest? I like to engage you guys with a little exercise right now. You can close your eyes if you need to, but visualize your home and where you live. Imagine now picking up the roads and removing all the roads around you. And then take away the buildings, remove all the buildings around you. And what is left? What is left there are the trees and the vegetation, and that is your urban forest. So we're talking about tonight is the public trees and private trees, the parks and natural areas, the public rights of way down the streets and boulevards, trees at city facilities like the libraries or around the city hall plazas and things. In private trees, in parlance, we talk about residential trees, so homeowners that own property, commercial properties, and industrial properties. And that's kind of how we typically divide those up. So what is an urban forest management plan? Okay, it's designed to be a long-term guide for the city to help it manage all of its city property, trees on city properties, public rights of way, and critical habitat areas. It establishes some long and short-term goals, but it really is a long-term document. And for it to last in a 40-year, and I should step back. Trees are long-lived. right? And it takes a long time to affect change in the forest. It's very quick to cut down a tree, but a very long time to grow one. So to have an effective plan, we actually follow adaptive management principles. And what that means is that this plan will be designed in such a way that every 5 years you go through a cycle to see how you're doing, what do we have, what do you want, how do we get there, and how are we doing? And so going through that circle, every 5 years, you're always reaching for 40 or 50 years forward. Why is it important to have this planning document at all? Well, it helps promote a shared vision, especially amongst city departments, as you recognize here that trees, they have to be managed by the Public Works Department. They have to be managed by the Parks Department. There's a lot of different individuals who touch trees in the city, and a management plan provides this sort of overarching guiding document to say, are the things when they get up and they start working through their day, are they doing the right things towards your objectives? It also helps communicate the value and benefits of trees, and helps give a framework to manage the challenges and opportunities that come up down the road as we learn more about the urban forest. And it creates an avenue for proactive management. So there's in urban forestry, there tends to be a lot of issues with reactive management. The only time you really deal with trees is when they're a problem. And a management plan says, no, let's take a look at it before you have the problems, and see those problems coming down the road, and make course changes and adjustments as you need to. So, what have we been through so far? Well, in December of this year was when the city retained the Davie Resource Group and my team to work on this management plan. And from there, we met and we conducted some stakeholder interviews. So we met with, this is a variety of city staff. We met with people from the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Services. So that, I thought I saw, right? And folks over there in the corner. We met with folks from Development Services, including Shane as the leader here. Public Works and Utilities. I think, did we get someone from Public Works here tonight? Yeah, oh, that's right, Jeannie, okay. And then we also met with the tree board as well. Through those dialogues, we did get a lot of the background, and I know some of you, have already expressed to me concerns about the recent exercise where the city tried to move forward with certain ordinances that were not approved by the city. I want to make it, just to be clear here tonight, our goal is really to help guide how the city manages the city trees. All right, but we can't separate all the private trees from the conversation because it's an urban forest. This is they're an integral part of the city, and you'll see that as we get into how we look at the tree canopy and the environmental benefits of trees. So we've had those conversations. We've looked at a lot of city documents, and we're going to be providing some advice and some guidance to the city on all the different places where trees are talked about, from comprehensive plans to the street tree plan that they have. And then we did the urban tree canopy assessment, which is a recent exercise, and that's where we got all the maps that you guys see up here. And then we're also going to be launching, this is the first of public input opportunities that we're going to then have more of these. So here we go. The urban forest canopy assessment. So what we did is we took aerial images of the city. You get those either through government websites. The aerial images are processed through a computer to look at all the different pixels in there, and the colors are analyzed in an automated process to identify what is tree versus what is bare ground, what is water, what is building, what is impermeable surface, what is, I've sort of covered them, bare soils, tree canopy impervious surface. And so you get these maps that are really of a high detail, and you get this area, so the dark green in this particular map, this is, if everybody can see this, I hope, this is the downtown marsh, and so you can see there's a little bit of a waterway, and this is the marshy grass area, and there's some tree locations. There's the park, downtown park right across that has a baseball diamond. Maybe a little hard to make out from a distance, but I'll encourage you to come up afterwards. With that whole exercise, we know that we have 30% tree canopy in Edmonds City Forest. So that's and then there's 34% impervious surface, 27% for grass and vegetation. There's some water that gets picked up in the analysis, so some of the small lakes or water bodies in the city, and bare soils. And what this helps tell the city is where the trees are and where the eligible opportunities are to either plant more trees or not affect any change at all. In fact, 34% of the city is impervious surface. That's the built environment. That's where you are all living. So we're not going to grow the urban forest past a certain point. And this frames the picture. How well is the city doing with 30% tree canopy? Is that what you want? When you take that urban tree canopy, you can then overlay it. Thanks to a lot of the new technologies, you can overlay it against other layers in the city's resources of information. So we could compare it against the commercial, public, and private properties. And so tree canopy by land type, we've identified that there's only 4.1% of the city's canopy is in commercial properties. But more dramatically, 83% of the canopy, the tree canopy, is actually private property. So we're with this plan mostly focusing right here on this 12% number. That smaller subset that is the city's trees that we can actively manage as a city. Another exercise though that we can do, because recognizing now that the city's forest is that small number, we can look at how the forest is connected, and that's important where we have wildlife concerns. We want to create better habitat for wildlife, or looking for opportunities, places to plant trees. We resolved through this exercise that there's 190 acres of core canopy. And that's dense forest. That's the places where the squirrels can hop from branch to branch and move around. That's the places where certain birds require that kind of habitat. So we know now where that specific canopy is, and there's some spots that really pop on this map. As the major parks. We also analyzed how much perforated canopy, patch canopy. That's the canopy that is adjacent to core canopy, but has little breaks in it. So if you can imagine, if you happen to live in a neighborhood and you're surrounded by trees, that perforation might be the trees that are just adjacent to your home. In other words, it's an environment that isn't a fully closed canopy. Outside of that, the vast of trees here and there. And it's very common for a city to want to move towards at least getting some of those patches more connected, so that again we can support the wildlife and the connected forest can provide. Finally, we also resolved the amount of edge canopy that was out there. And that's the acreage that's around that core canopy. So that's again just another telling opportunity of the different types of wildlife that can inhabit those areas. Knowing that we have canopy, trees have a leaf area on them, and so through this exercise we can connect this data to environmental benefits models, and we were able to determine that the trees in Edmonds are storing about 188,000 tons of carbon and it's valued on the carbon market, which is it's still, it's a dubious market, because it's not like you're gonna be able to sell this, but it's a sense of the value of the trees. It's $6.8 million in stored carbon in this canopy. More influential on an annual basis, the trees, they provide about $1.2 million in stormwater benefits. So that's, if you imagine that the trees, when it rains, catch the rainwater and slow it down so that it doesn't flash right down into the pipes and stormwater systems, right? It slows it down, so instead of having to build more pipes and drains, which cost X amount of dollars, the trees divert that. So that's how they come up with that value is of $1.2 million in stormwater benefits. In other words, if we didn't have any trees at all, the city would likely then have to build infrastructure to manage rainwater as it runs off into the ground and out into the Puget Sound. It also provides $147,000 in air quality benefits as pollutants get absorbed by trees. They can settle, like pollutants can settle on trees as dust. They can be exchanged through the biological processes of trees. And then as the trees continue to grow, they sequester more carbon. So every year, a tree grows a little bit larger, it takes on more wood, it adds to that initial value there of 188,000 tons of carbon. So it's putting on another estimated 6,300 tons of carbon a year. And we do this all from this aerial remote sense technology. But what's really important with these numbers is that it gives you guys a place to talk about, how do you value that? Which one, are any of these important to you at all, or are none of these important to you? If the city wants to grow, if the city wants to manage stormwater, which is most common in the Pacific Northwest, then they look to trees and say, okay, well, how many trees would we need to plant in order to maximize that value of stormwater benefits, and where should we plant them? So where does this canopy cover sit when you look at the neighboring adjacent communities? Anywhere, this is Bonnie Lake over here on the left. They did it back in 2012. They ground up with about 40% tree canopy. Edmonds here, 30%, right? And so you can see Lake Forest Park. A lot of people talk about Lake Forest Park. They've got 40% tree canopy. Kirkland is up in the 40s. Mercer Island is up above. Bellevue, Shoreline is right about 30%. They're about the same. And then Renton goes down lower in Seattle, and then we got Port Angeles over here, and Tukwila and Tacoma. So just to give you a sense of what set some expectations here, right? What does 30% mean? It's a big city. So that's the information that we got, that we know about Edmonds Forest right now. And what we're going to do with that information is work with the city. We're going to launch an online survey as of today to solicit as much public opinion as we can about how you guys value your urban forest. And we're going to work between June and July to draft up a management plan that sets some specific goals. We're going to, based on all the information we gather, we're going to suggest an assortment of goals for the city. And at that point, we'll then engage in some discussions with the city and with city staff. There's going to be a review process. We're going to have additional meetings with city council, planning board meetings, and public open houses, all the way through along here until we get to the spring when we approach a final draft. So what I see happening for your input is all of these are public meetings. And so you're always going to be welcome back again. I think the next public open house will be a point where we're going to be talking about the goals that we've suggested. And again, so going from what we're talking about today, how do the goals work for you? Which ones are favorable? Which ones are less favorable? So at this point, I'm going to bring Keely up, and she's going to help guide you guys through the conversation that we move to the boards. Keely, you want to step right up? Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. This is where we really engage you and invite you
really provide the city with your input, your thoughts, suggestions, comments, concerns about the information that Ian provided tonight, if you have any questions about that, and then the boards that we've got up. So you're actually going to be doing some voting tonight on some of the ideas that you have that we've already provided, but also we really want to get additional ideas from you as well. So a lot of the information that you're going to see that's already on the board, some of these suggestions, ideas, those came from these stakeholder interviews. They came from, which included the tree board and the members of the city staff that Ian mentioned, and also Snohomish PUD that does a lot of PUD, yes, that's called out to do a lot of the maintenance also in the city with certain problem trees.
I neglected to mention that we engaged them, yes.
But this is by no means an exhaustive list. This was just the initial ideas that came out through those stakeholder interviews, and now we want to really bring additional information in, from the public as well. So when we're thinking about this, we're really asking you to help us form the vision and goals of this overarching urban forestry management plan. As Ian mentioned, it's mostly focused on the public trees, the city-owned trees, that 12.9% of the overall 30% canopy that's city-owned trees. But you will see there is one board in the back that specifically calls out how do we also engage some of the information that's going to come through this management plan on private trees as well. So there's one board that talks about that, and again, getting your information on how does this management plan inform trees in addition to the public trees in the community that we're really focused on here. So we want you to really think big, and we've got several opportunities and ways that you can engage tonight, both very open and public, but also if you prefer, we have ways that you can provide your feedback confidentially and privately as well. So these are the boards that you'll see around the room. They're pretty broad questions, and like I said, some of them already have suggestions on them, but we have ways for you to add additional suggestions. So at each board, we're going to have a staff person or a member of the Daily Resources team at each board to answer any questions. At each board, there's a space for additional ideas. And we really want to make sure that we actually understand what your ideas, concerns, thoughts are. So at each board, there are Post-it notes, these bigger Post-it notes, and Sharpie markers. So we invite you to actually write your idea, thought, concern, question, comment on one of these sticky notes and actually stick it to the board under the additional ideas area. That way you and other people, if they see your idea and they like it, they can vote on it as well. So as opposed to just putting a dot in the additional ideas section, we actually need to know what that idea was, so please do write it down, and others will likely vote on your idea as well. And so we're going to hand out dots. There are only 3 colors being used tonight, red, yellow, and green. And it really is like the stop sign. Red is just that I don't like it. Yellow is caution, concern, I'm not sure. And then green is go for it. I like this idea. So if you happen to already jump ahead a little bit and grab dots, I know it's exciting. The blue dots don't mean anything. We're not using blue. So if you put some blue dots on the board, please grab the yellow, red, and green dots and change those out for what color you actually intended to use there for what your thought is. So no blue, no water. We're not doing water, we're doing trees. And then lastly, we also want to provide an opportunity, if you would prefer to make your comment, thought, suggestion, idea, concern anonymously and confidentially. At the back of the room where you signed in, we have postcards and pens and a box. So you can write your comment down and just put it right in the box. And we're not going to be bringing those out tonight or sharing them publicly, but that's still another way to give us information. And then lastly, and we're going to leave this up when we get to this slide, there is an online survey. So please do go on, even though you're here tonight, you're going to be voting and sharing your ideas, please feel free to go to the online survey and share there as well. Also, invite your friends, your neighbors, other people in the community that weren't able to be here tonight. Please invite them to go online and take the online survey as well.
I would like to just to quickly comment on the length of both of those hyperlinks. They're quite long-winded. We are working with the city to make that a little more front and center. She's on it. It's just that we've just launched the survey today, so if you go to the city's website, it takes a little bit of extra legwork. It's through the planning department and the long-range planning that you'll find it. Or if you go to surveymonkey.com/r/Edmonds UFMP. Again, stick around after the meeting if you want to we'll probably keep that slide up.
Yeah, we'll keep this slide up, and so after tonight, the city is going to make it a little easier to find the survey on the city's
And if
website.
anybody's put their email address on the sign-in sheet, we'll also send the link to them.
Yes.
So one thing we do want to do now, if there's any questions, we don't want to start a big discussion about all of your thoughts, ideas, concerns, comments, because we feel we have a lot of great ways to collect those and hear from you tonight. Again, there's going to be someone facilitating each board, so there's going to be someone to engage with directly that's also going to hear your thoughts and ideas and comments. But are there does anyone in the audience have any clarifying questions for me or Ian about the presentation and the data in particular that he presented? Is there anything we can clarify? Because you're probably not the only one with the question. So I'd love to take a couple minutes. Yeah, Susie.
So it's about the process for determining the 30%. That seems really high to me. And I don't know if there's a uniform process that's used by all cities, because I remember a grant that the grants were judged by how much canopy they had.
Yeah.
Remember that, Keely, on that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wondered what the process for determining 30% seems kind of arbitrary to me, but that's.
It's an industry standard approach that we used. So the city of Los Angeles used the same
Okay,
technique.
that's what I
The
wanted
city
to
of
know.
Denver, Colorado used the same technique. We did this. Some of those cities hired us. So City of Tukwila, we use the same technique, and it's an automated technology. So the computer moves from color to color across a map and says, okay, it's green, it's a tree, and then we go through a secondary step to identify, okay, because there's obviously some stuff that's captured that it's green, but it's not a tree, it's a green car. So we go through a few exercises to make some corrections there. And what you're left with is a surface area, a flat, measurable terrain that is that 30% canopy.
In one of the early slides, it said the goal was to manage government property. And you have expanded that to private property. Is the first part wrong? Is it how to handle government, our city, and private property?
The goal of the plan is to manage the urban forest, and so we're not going to try to tell anybody how to manage the trees on their property. However, through the management of the urban forest, we may engage in some education programs. Like for instance, tree topping. Okay, if I can get into any kind of trouble tonight, tree topping is not a healthy way to manage a tree. And there's a lot of evidence to argue against that. And a public education campaign to deter that is a way that the city can help encourage people to more effectively care for the trees on their property, just in leading by example, if you will. So those are the kind of things that we will be encouraging the city to establish as a direction to guide in the care of the forests, to help encourage the public to understand how to care for their forest. Okay, yeah, he was first and then you. Okay?
One of the things we haven't done is define a tree. I mean, a 30-foot lilac, is that a tree? A big, huge rhododendron, there's one in my neighbor's backyard that is 20 feet tall. That seems to me to be a tree.
Yes. Yes, and all of that gets picked up as trees in this UTC assessment. The challenge with the UTC assessment is that we don't know the quality or condition of the urban forest. We can just say, what kind of leaf area do we have out there? So yeah, laurels, hedge laurels, arborvitae, I mean, all of that stuff gets picked up as canopy because that is leaf surface area that prevents and slows the exchange of water and stormwater and all that stuff. So,
Pretty much if it's bigger than your lawn, it's caught in this canopy.
it gets picked up, yep, yep.
Yeah, and you'll see on the maps, when you're able to get up here closer, and I didn't point out the map, so we have the map printed up big here. And the area we zoomed in on Edmonds Marsh right here, it can differentiate the marsh grasses from anything basically like a shrub and bigger. So as you get back around like the hatchery, it's all treed, but then as you go out Willow Creek, you see it turns right into that grassy marsh area. Great question, thank you for that.
I just want to ask, I don't see any evergreen on here. So are we dealing with like the cedar and the?
So he's referring to the yellow paper that's in the back about tree suggestions or planting suggestions. I just wanted to point that out so everyone in the room knew what you were talking
Okay.
about.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And then what was your specific question?
Well, the question was, I might have some questions about evergreen, but they're considered in the forest, and I didn't see it on here, so, you know, I just didn't, it's late in the day, I didn't put it all together yet, but it's reasonable.
And then right here?
You know, you talk about the negative side of topping, but isn't that preferable to cutting a tree to the ground? I have a view, my neighbors allow me to prune their hedge. I've been doing it for 25 years, it's gorgeous, it's healthy, and they told me I could take the trees down, it's preferable to doing that. When you're in a city with as much view as we have, I just think that is the wrong direction to go. You still have the green, you still have the tree, and it's better than letting 150-foot, evergreen grow up in somebody's view.
Sure. They are your trees.
And it works. It doesn't kill the tree.
It can.
Oh, well, maybe it can,
But
but cutting the tree to the ground
Right.
is
right.
not, it's preferable.
Yeah. No,
And you make a blanket rule like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a.
It's not a rule. It's a best practice. An arborist,
Yeah.
certified and qualified, will not go out and top your tree. They will engage in crown reduction. Let me put that term out there. Okay, crown reduction is a systematic approach where you're not just cutting. You are making strategic cuts on a tree to reduce its size, and that is eligible. But the thing is there's so many years of bad arboriculture practices out there that are
Yeah, I see those.
still circulating. And once you top a tree, you have to top it again. It has to be. So anyway, okay.
The
Thank you.
health of the tree.
Yeah.
And
okay.
right here?
Yeah. So.
Do you have any suggestions or knowledge about what type of trees do what kinds of things? A fir versus an oak versus something else?
Yeah, I'll love to talk. Let's talk
where is
about that on
data?
the side. Come find me right. We're going to break up and do this discussion. And if you want to talk about what kind of trees would benefit you this way and that way, I'd be happy to.
And I imagine a lot of people in the room, or even people that are in the community that aren't in the room tonight, have that very good question. So one of the boards talks about education and resources that the city could provide to the community. We're curious, do you want online, do you want print material, do you want actual like in-class workshop kind of learning? So we'd love to have your thoughts on that, and then anyone else in the thought that has questions about how can the city provide better education and resources. We'd love to hear that, because that's something the city could implement in the future is some education opportunities. And then I saw a hand over here.
I have a question relative to that chart that you showed with the other cities and the percentage of urban forest. Lake
bar
Forest, pardon?
The bar chart.
Yeah, sorry, it's advancing very, I'm on my way. Keep asking your question.
We're a little
Well,
closer.
that takes
There we go.
into no consideration your property. Does it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
That takes into consideration view property, or does it not?
It does not distinguish view property. It's purely where there are trees and where there are not trees.
Okay.
So this is the percentage of, so, you know, the city of Edmonds has 30% canopy throughout its city. And that means that 30% of the city has trees shading the ground.
And a significant portion of the city has views.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, we're just staying conscious of people's time. Come see me right now. Let's
Yeah,
get up.
please, we
just
invite
wanna-
you to please come and ask our
Yeah.
questions. We want to get everyone having plenty of time to go to the board and voting, but we're still available for questions throughout the evening.